Hello, everyone, and welcome to week 5 for American government. Just as we get started here, before we actually get rolling on this, I just want to say I apologize to everyone. I wish that I could have gotten this video out sooner, but my holiday travels, took me a little longer than I expected in my return. So, getting in late last night. So, I just want to apologize for that, and thank you for your grace and forgiveness. So moving forward, we're going to look at week 5 for campaigns, elections, and interest groups. That being said, as we get started with this week, I just really want you to kind of go with the team mindset here. And team mindset is basically just thinking about everybody that's there to help you and move you through these, pretty much the center of this session, week 5, and what it takes to have strength in numbers to help you push through all your assignments and just everything that's also encompasses your daily life. But just kind of go with the team mindset this week and moving forward. And then also too, the video for this week from Jay is build on your strengths. And from a month's perspective, the greatest power is to be self-controlled. And that's what we really need to look at here as we move through the turbulent waters of the political season that's still kind of, different areas is still kind of raging on. But, use your self-control, kind of detach yourself from the emotions that are easily can be inflamed or, that you feel passionate about, and which is good. It's just, but just kind of really make sure that you're seeing all perspectives when making judgments and decisions and all that going forward. But this is really good. It's a short video, but it's really kind of just kind of gets your mind right as far as how to handle yourself, but also too where we're kind of heading when he just brings up mental health issues and stuff. So week 5 agenda: political parties and interest groups have influenced elections since elections of 1800. Arguably, the media has influenced elections and the public opinion since the Federalist Papers, and the media has also assumed an even more critical role in modern day with the recent elections, and which is also solidified as the most important player in the presidential campaign. And you can just kind of think back to everything that went on and how the media actually played a significant role. Social media played a significant role in how the election actually kind of ended up. That's one way to look at it. But moving forward, what's it really, if this is just the tip of the iceberg, what is really underneath it all, and see where we're headed. So this week's reading in the Abernathy is going to be chapters 10 and 11. And then also too in the other book, Making Sense of the 2016, you got, the battle for control of Congress. You have the 2016 elections in the states, and then putting the 2016 election into context, and that's the Schaffner book. And that pretty much will kind of wrap up this book. But one thing that I want you to look at as far as within this book is just in the battle for control of Congress rather, on page 33, it talks about the diversity in Congress. And it just says, nearly all members of Congress identify as Christians, but the number of non-Christians will increase slightly following the 2016 elections. The number of Jewish members of Congress will increase from 28 to 30. 3 newly elected Hindus will bring the total for that faith tradition to 4. The number of Muslim and Buddhist legislature remains at 2 and 3 respectively. So it's just the diversity within the Congress here is really starting to expand, and I think that's a good thing for all of us as in order to have equal representation. Week 5 quiz. Quizzes related to this week's lectures and readings, just the typical true-false. You will have an opportunity to try this quiz again with the highest score to be used. So your voices were heard, and when I was setting this up, I just kind of lost track of what I was checking. And so long story short is I went ahead and released it. You will get the opportunity to take it again, but know that one of the 2 scores, whichever is the highest, will actually be recorded for you. So then as we get into the lecture slides this week, we'll open up chapter 10. And we're going to talk about the campaigns and elections and the candidates and voters in an era of demographic change. So the candidates face challenges as they look to Latinas and Latinos, and discuss the challenges facing the candidates for the 2016 presidential and congressional elections as they sought to reach out to the growing Latina and Latino population. And you can see how this kind of ties in with where we're at right now with our border controls and everything that is actually happening, down south right now. But where is this going to move this group, this demographics of Hispanics in the next election? So it'll be interesting to see how that all pans out. It just talks about here that the candidates face challenges as they look for the Hispanic vote and the opportunities versus the challenges. And then connecting the stories. Once again, it's during the 2016 presidential campaign, candidates in both major parties tried to convince the Latina and Latino voters that theirs was a candidacy worth supporting. You also have the important terms, demographics, swing states, and then moving over to campaign contributions in national elections. This is something that it always interests me in how much money actually gets spent. And talks about safeguarding the election system. Framers did not want the system to be too democratic, and they built the roadblocks to slow down the transmission of the passions of the people into public policy. Could that kind of relate back to the video of, checking your emotions and kind of keeping control of your passion? Senators initially chosen by state legislatures rather than election by the people. Complicated process to elect presidents that goes way beyond pure democracy or direct election. And then you also do time, place, and manner of elections is the prerogative of the state under the constitutional system. So, as a nation, each state kind of still holds true to building out their constitutional system and how people are voted for. Functions of elections. Just talking about the elections are the key in which Americans keep their elected officials in line. That is very true. And then is what you're going to see with just this one statement here, how it pans over to what money buys. Largest campaign expenditure is on media time and television, radio, and print, and social media. And use of negative campaign ads is rising, and some experts believe they actually serve a purpose. The purpose, Gear argued, negative campaign ads may increase quality of information available to voters as they make choices. Well, I think with this, my personal perspective is that they actually generate emotion. And as these ads kind of maybe irritate you in whatever regards, but it kind of triggers that emotional stimulus to just want to go out and either vote for or against something. So it can be viewed as a positive and a negative, but overall, this is just typically what money is buying, and it sounds like money is kind of buying elections. And then you can see right here, growth of presidential campaign spending from 1908 to 2000, and look at what campaign costs have done. I mean, they've literally shot up with the GDP. And then can campaign contributions be regulated? There's the Buckley-Valeo. Congress upholds constitutionality of restrictions on campaign contributions by individuals, and that's why there's so much sneakery and different things like that with, perfect. It was President Trump and the Manafort and all that with the ties of the Russians and how things kind of panned out. So... And then there's people constantly, I think it was just this, he's from Temecula maybe, he was spending his campaign funds on lavish gifts for himself and his wife. So we just got to kind of pay attention, and us as the voter need to really kind of watch how our representatives act. And then conducting national campaigns and elections. Then you just have some more important terms. And then you get into that gerrymandering. The House is fixed at 435 members. And for like For a state like Texas to get new congressional districts, another state like Michigan must lose congressional districts. So the process of determining how many representatives each state gets is called apportionment and is based on population of each state. So as you see Texas starting to grow, California, people say that they're leaving California to move to Texas, tax reasons and etc. But this is how you can kind of start getting into those gerrymandering issues. Institutional advantage of logic and of incumbency. Incumbency advantage is very strong for congressional candidates and has only grown over time as the vast majority of congressional incumbents who seek re-election succeed. And that's because it's the old way of doing things. And it's because reasons incumbents usually win. And here we go. Free media time. Connection already exists with constituents as long as incumbent is doing what constituents expect of him or her. Name recognition. And then what makes a good challenger. And here I think if you just roll through this and just think back to just what you saw in the media the last week, and it seems like these people are hitting all of these qualities, if they say. So that's it for chapter 10, and we'll move over to 11. And then you have the interest groups and social movements, the collective action, power, and representation. So you have the voluntary associations in the American political system, identify the constitutional foundations of voluntary association in the American political arena. The Constitution of the United States ensures the ability of Americans to form voluntary or associations and make their wishes known. And I think if you look at this chart here, where do Americans participate? Religious, and then at 34%, then 26% is education. I always kind of look at sports and arts, how it's only at 8%. I would think that number could be a little higher, but that's just my perspective. And then you have your types of interest groups, your economic, your public, and your government interest groups. Then you're going to talk about important terms here. Got a couple of slides on that. And then challenges facing interest groups and social movements. Summarize the challenges interest groups and social movements confront in recruiting, mobilizing, and organizing the activities of their members. And political science have offered a variety of explanations for why Americans choose to join or not join voluntary associations in political life. And when acting collectively, there are rational incentives for individuals to allow others to undertake collective efforts. So basically, getting individuals involved to contribute their energy and time, and there are many of those movements that have occurred in the last 2 years, let alone 5 years. And then you have your free rider program, when, for example, we all benefit from the public good that national defense, the military provides us, but most of us do not enlist in the military, and many of us do not pay federal income tax, which pays for the military. Therefore, that group does not directly contribute to the public good of military defense, and they would be known as free riders. And then the strategies to avoid the free rider program. You have the AAA provides roadside service, but only to those members who contribute for it as part of their membership dues. So it's a pay for play type of mentality. And lobbying and influence. And just when lobbying of the federal government interest groups act to influence the actions of legislative, executive, judicial branches using a variety of strategies. But I think if you look here at this chart, the growth of lobbying. So in 1998, it was 1.45 billion spent. And look at the lobbyists here. Number of lobbyists was 10,000. But then if you scroll down to 2015, and it's doubled, 3.22 billion for 11,520. But here is the caveat that I looked at that kind of grabbed me. And when did the market crash? And it crashed in 2008. Look how many lobbyists were there. You had 14,827 lobbyists. So you went from 10,000, and 20 years later you went to you gained another 4,400, and then the market dumped, and everybody paid the price on that. And then all of a sudden, here we are, fast forward to 2015, and we've reduced the number of lobbyists. It's just something to think about, how active are lobbyists and the weight that they carry, that they really carry. And then important terms, you have lobbying, public interest groups, economic and governmental interest groups. And then the revolving door. Of the top 20 firms listed, note that 5 are financial firms or organizations involved in the mortgage industry. And you can see right here the number of revolving door employees. And it's pretty fascinating to think that the finance industry is what kind of controls, how we move, how government moves. And then you have your iron triangle: interest groups, Congress, and the bureaucracy. And you can kind of see how each one kind of works for the other in certain ways. And then here, wrapping this up, is the connect to the stories. The members of Occupy Wall Street, there you go, group that was formed, attempted to create a social movement in order to call attention to economic inequality in the United States. And then they created this little picture here of what the nation would look like. And then once again, oh yes, look at that, it's my anniversary today. Connecting to the stories, to the stories, debate the degree to which Americans are equally represented by interest groups and social movements. And many Americans felt that the federal government's response to the financial crisis of 2008 favored powerfully connected financial firms at the expense of the ordinary citizen. And then what do you think? So that's it for this week's PowerPoints, and we'll get back over to the learning activities. So your week 5 discussion: if you were a candidate for office, would you use negative ads? Why or why not? And would your answer change if your campaign were attacked? Full credit, respond to the question plus reply to one additional student. That's kind of just a generic there. So I don't, just what we talked about here, if you're using negative ads and if you're trying to trigger emotions from the general public. And then you have your rubric for the discussion post. 40 points are at stake. Journal number 3, choose a topic. Your paper is due the night of the 7th, and in this journal entry, carefully explore the topics below. And then you can see here healthcare, public ed, Social Security, transportation, civil rights. So please just get online and look at these and decide which one you want to select. There's your rubric for the journal. And then your critical assignment framework. I did mention that I would attach a document here. So critical assignment format document is basically here for you to kind of just go over and see, if you can kind of morph your work into this critical assignment. It's just a recommendation. It's just there to help you. It's just one of those tools. You won't lose points, you won't gain points, but if you do follow this organization, how much easier it is to kind of keep your paper in order. And then last, the moral order of God. Just looking at the biblical worldview says that because we're created in God's image, God's law is then built within our consciousness. And this is just a short video here about Christian ethics and how we I like to see this video here because it kind of ties the week in with, taking care of ourselves, but, maintaining our Christian ethics and our morality and understanding that, like I said, God's law is then built within our consciousness because we've been born. So that being said, once again, it's an action-packed week and we're already into Wednesday, so I do apologize again for the delay in getting this out, but please, I will be available from here through Sunday should you need me or if you have any questions about anything. So other than that, have a great week, rest of the week, and lance up.